If I had to pick a scary moment from gaming this year, mine happened while playing Prey. I was walking through a museum present near the start of the game when all of a sudden a phantom came charging at me from behind. Considering I was under-equipped and underprepared, and I thought the area I was in was a safe hub, it scared the crap out of me, alarming my roommate when I started yelling, "Die, die!" at my screen while slamming my wrench into its face.
Nothing is scarier in games when you know what it is you have to face and realize that thing is horrifying. For me, that was the Flood in Halo. I remember the level Cortana in Halo 3 making me jump on multiple occasions. In this mission, you're put smack in the middle of a flood-infested city. That alone is scary, but in this mission, you know you have to make it to the center of this hellish landscape and rescue Cortana. The entire time you're walking, you hear fleshy squish sounds of the flood and constant moans of infected beings. To top it all off is the ever-present Gravemind, who will interrupt you and share some of his infinite wisdom, as well as making you jump out of your skin. Halo is my favorite game series of all time, but I will never forget the dark, nightmare-inducing mission, nor will I forget just how relieved I was to get the hell out of it.
I think the creepiest moment I ever had in a video game was probably while I was playing Slender, the one that freaked everybody out at the end of middle school. So it was my first time playing the game, and I had really good headphones on, to the point that I couldn't hear anything other than the game. And there's a point where you walk into something that looks like a bathroom, but it's really just like this little shed in the middle of the woods. There's a lot of very tight corners, and around every corner there's a good chance that Slender Man's going to be there waiting for you. So I was walking through, and he wasn't there, and every time I turned a corner I got more and more paranoid, thinking he was going to be there. But sure enough, as long as I went, he wasn't in there. So I went in, got the page, no problem at all. I'm walking out thinking, okay, this is not a big deal. I get to the main door to leave the building, and he's right there in the doorway. So I yelled, I dropped my controller, and my character died. And that is how I learned to never go into creepy sheds in the middle of the woods at night. So hey, I learned something.
Not a lot of games really scared me as a kid, because I always played the bigger kid games with my dad. Whenever a scary part came up, or if a part was too hard, he took the controller and we did it together. But if anything has scared me in a video game from recent memory, it's from an extremely unlikely entry, Final Fantasy XIII. I remember reading the lore to the game once I'd beaten all the hunts in the main story, and learning how entities within that game called Seath are born. Hearing about l'Cie, who cannot complete their focus, and how they are damned to a fate of either committing suicide or becoming a mindless, shambling monstrosity really stuck with me. It made me shudder to think about how easy it is to lose humanity, and to be cursed with something you can never let go of. And because l'Cie in that game reviewed as outcasts and freaks, it was the first time that a game made me think about my humanity in a fearful way. Could I really accept such a reality and fight through it in order to complete the task I was put on this earth for? Could I deal with the ultimatum of win or die? That introspection I had when I read that dialogue still haunts me to this day. Sure, it's easy to be scared when a game throws a jump scare at you. Sure, the idea of something hidden waiting to get you is just as terrifying. But a game that, from a simple bit of backstory, quakes you to your core and makes you question your humanity is downright demonic.
My spooky video game story is when I came home to find my Xbox One already turned on, and I thought someone had broken into my house and they had just walked past the Xbox and hit their butt on it or something. But actually the power was going out while I wasn't home, because it happened again in the middle of the night at 5 a.m. and I heard the sound, so nothing to fear.
So it was 2005, and my big brother and I had gotten Halo 2 for Christmas that year. Being 7 years old, I didn't follow the storyline of Halo all too well. I just liked the cool guns and the vehicles and kicking alien butt with my big brother. But then the flood happened. I never watched any sort of horror movies as a child. They scared me to death. So when those nasty, grotesque, terrifying, mutilated forms of mashed together flesh, known as the Flood, came out to play, I was done. I absolutely could not deal with the flood. So I just let my brother do all those levels and felt completely content, having no idea what was going on in Halo. Aliens? Okay. Easy. Done deal. The flood? Bye-bye.
My scary moment is in the adorable game A Hat in Time. This game sells itself as a heckin' cute collectathon adventure, and for the most part, that's true. But things take a turn for the eerie in the third area. The game hyperbolizes most of the spooky elements, so parts that should normally be scary tend to not be. Except for one. As a mechanic to traverse the world, there are nooses that you can grapple onto to get to higher levels. Each time you grapple, they'll say some stuff like,
I wouldn't mind being strapped around a cute neck like yours.
but the voice is always in an over-the-top manner, so it's not really scary. However, one line tones it down and brings it to a somber place. It says,
I'm always here for you, ma'am.
I'm always here for you, in a very calming and alluring voice that's beckoning to be used as a means of escape. Saying that to a child of all people, that if suicide becomes your answer, it'd be happy to help, that's really scary. In such a cute, happy, goofy game, hearing that line gave me chills and forced me to set the game aside for a while.
My spooky story takes place in a little game called Batman Arkham Knight. Towards the end of the game, where Joker's inside Batman's head, there's a point where you're playing as Joker in a first-person view. As this section continues, it goes deeper into the psyche of Joker, and you see what his greatest fear is. Eventually, you're confronted by stone statues of Batman continuously, all while having very creepy music playing. It all leads to this moment where you're surrounded by statues of Batman and they start appearing weeping angel style on you, and I was just like, whoa. And it was just really unsettling for me, and I feel like it was the strongest moment in the game, and it's a video game moment I'll never forget.
What's the scariest thing I ever saw? I'll tell you. There's this one ass who just keeps dropping me every single time he pulls me out of the cabinet. It's like the same. He just grabs me, trips, knocks me on the floor. I get a couple chips in my head, but he don't care. So you know what he does last night? He comes home at 2 in the morning and fills me up with coffee and trips over his tiny little limp and I just go falling on the ground again, coffee everywhere, and you know what? That's it. That was the last straw. I just can't do it anymore. I just can't.
One time I was playing Dead by Daylight with some of my friends on Xbox, and Michael Myers had recently been released as a playable killer. Now, I knew that one of his special traits was that he is very stealthy and it can be hard to tell that he is coming up on you, but I hadn't played against him enough to know exactly how stealthy he was. So we get into a match, I'm kind of separated from everyone else, and it was already a couple of minutes in and no one had seen the killer yet. So I'm just there fixing a generator, and as I look around, I see Michael Myers standing just about 10 feet behind me, just staring at me, and I lose it. I freak out and bolt in the opposite direction, and to make it worse, as I begin to run, the Halloween theme begins to play as well. So I just get completely terrified, and all the while my friends are just laughing their asses off at me screaming. It was absolutely terrible.